Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about this idea of how it is that we can just add and subtract using just tens and hundreds, right? This is just another method that really goes along with the concept of skip counting and how we could approach problems by adding on just 10 more, 100 more, and what are kind of the like shortcuts that can help us do that. So let's kind of start with that concept again of skip counting, right? We would call like the idea like we're counting by tens. If I had 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60, my first observation I can really make here is that every time I'm adding 10, what I notice is that my ones place does not change because I'm not doing anything with the ones place, right? And if we go back quickly thinking about those place values, remember we have our ones, we have our tens, and then we also have our hundreds that we'll talk about. Let's call that hundreds, right? So right now, if we're adding 10, right, we're not changing this ones place. It stays the same. And that's what's going to help us understanding that concept right away is how if I'm adding on 10, I really only focus into the tens place in order to do that. Another example might be, let's say I have 32 and I'm counting by 10. So again, 42, 52, 62, 72, 82. Like that's the cool thing that I'm still counting by 10. I'm adding 10 more. The tens place is changing by 1, but the ones place is not changing because there's nothing there, right? If I'm talking about 10, there's a 0 value in the ones place. So that's where we're kind of going with this idea. We can even approach that with hundreds. Again, if I counted by 100, right? 100, 200, 300. So I'm skip counting, but really I'm adding 100 every time. And in this case, you can notice like the tens place and the ones place, like neither of those are changing, right? Neither of those have any sort of change because I'm adding just 100. So let's think about that in terms of like if we had a number like 151 and I was adding 100, I was counting by hundreds. Well, that would be 251. Again, notice this doesn't change, right? If I added 100, that would be 351, right? And then 451 or 551. So again, this is really what that concept is all about, is that when I'm mentally adding 10 or 100, if I pay attention to what I'm adding, that's the only place value that changes with a given number, right? And we can look at that through a model itself, right? We can talk again about the ones place, very important terms that we should know, the tens place, and then the hundreds, which this time I'm going to make sure I spell all the way out. And what that really means about if we're adding on numbers. For example, if I had, I don't know, 89, right? So if I was to model that 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And then let's just add 10. Well, if I added 10 more to my model over here, you'll see in the 0, there's a 0 in the ones place, so nothing goes over here. And then here would be 8 plus 1, so I have to add 1 to the tens place. And if we added this would be 99, right? 9 plus 0, 0, 8 plus 1. And modeling wise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there you have it again. Notice the only thing that changed was the tens place because I'm only adding a 10. So we put this to practice, right? Like this understanding of all of this comes along with then, okay, well, questions often would say like, what is 10 more? right? And then there'd be like a series of problems. So let's say 671, let's say 5. We'll get tricky with that one. Let's say 56, let's say 28, right? Okay, so now the question is like, what is 10 more? So again, if we're thinking tens, then we're only going to focus on the tens place. So in that case, that would be here. In this case, it would be here, right? There's nothing there. There's here and here. Like I would focus on only my tens place, and that's just what's going to change. And it's only going to change by 1 because I'm adding 10 more. So we would say 681. And just went up 10. In this case, it goes up 1 more in my tens place, which actually just makes that 15. That one was a little tricky, right? If I had 5 and I added 10 more. Here, we get 66, because again, we're only changing the tens place, and here we get 38. So that's where we can start to think about this idea when I add 10 more. I'm not changing any other place value but the tens, right? And they could even come along and say, oh, well, what is 10 less? Right? Okay, well, I'm not worried. It's still the tens place, but since it's less, I'm gonna take 1 away instead of add 1. So I don't know. These numbers were probably the same. I don't know. Let's do one with the hundreds, and let's just do a 10. Okay, so again, what is 10 less? Well, again, it's asking about the 10, so I'm gonna look at my tens place in all of these numbers, because that's the only thing that's going to change. And this time I'm going less. So this would be 46. This would be 61. This would be 10. And this would be 288, because I just went less in that case. Okay. So there's really where this works with the tens. Like, how can we mentally add? And again, I want to keep in mind like problems like this, where if it's more than 2 digits, it's still the only thing that changes is our tens place. That's all, right? So what about the hundreds, right? Right, like what is 100 more? So same idea, absolutely the same idea. We go 891. I'm gonna say 377. I'm gonna say, I'm just making these numbers up, 1,871. I kind of feel like I'm using the same digits here. Oh well. And how about 76? Okay, so again, what is 100 more? Keep in mind again, the only place we're going to focus on is the hundreds place. The rest is filled with zeros, so nothing changes. So I would look at my hundreds, look at my hundreds, look at my hundreds, look at my hundreds. And then since it's 100 more, I'm just adding 1 more to that place value, right? Like we showed in that model. So this would be 991. Would be 477. Again, notice these numbers are not changing. The only thing that's changing is the hundreds place. 1,971. And then in this case, there's no hundreds, so now I have 1 of them in there, so I'd get 176, right? And why this is so valuable, why this really helps us, is that we could actually even do more than 10 or hundreds, right? We could just use the same philosophy, the same thinking. And someone might say, oh, well, what is 30 more? Okay, well, again, we're focusing on the tens place. Again, the ones place won't change, or any other place value. So if I had a problem like, I don't know, 52, okay, well, again, we're focusing on the tens place. That's the only thing that's going to change. But this time, instead of adding just 1 more, I'm going to add 3 more. So 5, 6, 7, 82, right? So that's where we can apply this skill, where we can take these larger jumps to kind of help us get to these numbers, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, so let's see. What else do we need to cover? Oh, I guess we didn't really talk about the 100 less. So let's do that real quick, right? So what is 100 less? So again, less, that means I'm going to subtract. I'm still focusing on the hundreds place then on this one. So if I had a series of questions, 854, and C 7, and then I'm gonna do 1,000. So let's do 2,600, 600. Okay, so 100 less, right? So I'm still focusing on the hundreds place. And if you haven't yet, I really encourage you to go ahead and pause this and try these on your own, and then you can come back and like check your work with me. So welcome back from pausing. So hundreds place, right? I kind of like to go through and find the hundreds place in all of them first, and then it's less, and it's 100. So I'm going to take 1 away from the hundreds place. So this would be 462. This would be 754. This would be 661, and this would be 2,500. Okay, so there you have it. This mentally adding tens and hundreds, really helpful, something we can definitely continue to practice on. It's going to come in handy with so much of what we do. And as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for working hard, and we will see you next time.